Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The federal government just announced two major changes when it comes to new home purchases for first-time homebuyers, but also for the general public. We're going to talk about exactly what those changes mean for the real estate market. Are they actually going to do anything for affordability, and who they're actually trying to incentivize by implementing these changes? Real quick before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds interesting to you, you wanted to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below and on screen here, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, so we're gonna hop right into it. Two very significant announcements by the federal government. Number one, 30-year amortization. So to talk about this very quickly, in August 1st was actually the launch date. The federal government launched a new policy for first-time home buyers when they were buying new construction product, so new builds essentially, that they would be able to take advantage of a 30-year amortization period. So that was as of August 1st. Now, when they announced this change at that time, I came out and I said, look, this is not in any way, put out there to help the first-time buyer. This is actually more of an incentive and a message to developers to say, look, we need you to keep building product, and we're now going to incentivize buyers to buy your units, to buy your new product, because right across the country, especially Toronto and Vancouver, development just dwindling and falling off of a cliff. It's no surprise the federal government saw this and thought we need to make it more enticing for first-time buyers, home buyers, to purchase this new construction product. So as of August 1st, if you were a first-time home buyer and you were buying new construction, you could take advantage of a 30-year, and I say take advantage loosely, but you could take advantage of a 30-year amortization on that new construction. Now, what they've done, what they just announced, is they've tweaked this policy now. Is they've said if you're a first-time buyer, whether you're buying a new construction product or you're buying a resale home that already exists essentially, you can take advantage of the 30-year regardless. And now any buyer, whether you're a first-time buyer or not, including investors, can take advantage of a 30-year amortization on new construction. So with this change, what they've done again is they've heavily incentivized the development community by saying, look, any buyers of your product now are going to be able to take a 30-year amortization. Ultimately, what this is going to do is it's going to bring down monthly payments around 8% from a 25 to a 30-year amortization. But it also increases buying power up to 15%, meaning that buyers can qualify for more. So again, any buyer, and this will be as of December 15th, any buyer now purchasing new construction can take a 30-year amortization. And if you're a first-time buyer, you can take that on a resale property as well. And I think that's a very important distinction, because I've said it plenty times on this channel. I think that the resale product, the product that already exists, unfortunately, often it's tenanted property or a condo that already exists. I think that's the ideal property purchase for a first-time buyer. With these pre-sales, it's not super common when we look at new construction and how some of these pre-sales are lined up, where completion is not for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Doesn't really actually play into the scenario of a first-time buyer who needs to make a more timely purchase. So in making this sort of a change, saying, hey, first-time buyers, you don't have to just buy new construction. We can make it easier for you to buy something that already exists, because we understand you're under a time constraint to make your purchase. You can now take the 30-year amortization. And the message was very clear from the federal government this time, saying this is to incentivize developers. They didn't really touch on that or talk on that at all when they launched it in August. But they came out clearly and said, look, this is what we're trying to do here. We want the developers to keep on building, and now any buyer can take on that 30-year amortization, so they can again keep the cash flow down. If we look at it from an investor's perspective, this is obviously trying to encourage investors, pre-sale investors, to get back into it. If you look at pre-sale numbers dwindling, they want people to get back into that pre-sale market, into that game to purchase, so that developers can keep, the process going. So allowing this sort of, an easier, a better cash flow scenario, would maybe encourage some investors to buy new construction who, investors, a lot of them, rental investors, they don't generally look for that new construction unless it's, dirt cheap, it's maybe a low rise, it's on a low floor, it's out in the valley. These types of products where you can come close to cash flowing. I won't even say that you can cash flow, but you come closer. But now, they're trying to get that investment community back into this pre-sale market, start buying pre-sales. So really, when we talk about this specific policy, and I'm going to jump to the second one shortly here, but when we talk about this one, what is it ultimately going to do? Is it's going to create enhanced demand, right? Because what's ultimately going to happen now is people are going to see, as they speak with their mortgage brokers, their buying power is increasing. And if they shift from 25 to 30 years, they're not necessarily looking at how much more interest they're paying, how much more debt they're taking on over that time period. They're looking at the monthly payment, like many of us looking at monthly payments. Is this feasible? Can we make it work? And that shift from the 25 to the 30 year, bringing that monthly payment down almost 10%, it's going to make a difference. And I think ultimately what we're going to see are buyers are just going to take on more debt. And this is essentially going to create more demand, and it's going to prop up that floor price of real estate. It's going to bring up prices strictly because people have more buying power. They're able to get approved for more money. The payments make more sense at the 30-year mark. So this is not something that is going to help with affordability. This is just going to make it easier to take on more debt. And the second change that we just saw announced, this is just as big, is up until now, we've had an insured mortgage threshold, and I'm going to explain this. So how it works here in Canada, up until December 15th, is if you're purchasing a property and it's below $1 million, $999,999, if it's below that, you do not have to put 20% down, and that mortgage could be insured. And basically, it would be insured by the CMHC. Now, when people think about insurance on a mortgage, one of the big confusions out there is buyers, when we're talking about mortgage insurance, they believe that, paying the mortgage insurance fee, which is anywhere from around 3 to 4% of the mortgage amount, paying that fee, some of them believe that that's insurance for them, if they were to default on a payment or something along those lines. What it actually is it's insurance for the lender. So you as the buyer pays, because you're putting less than 20% down, you as the buyer pays that insurance fee, and it adjusts based on how much you're putting down, but it's actually protecting the lender. And that threshold was $1 million, meaning that if you wrote an offer at $1 million, you had to put 20% down from that point forward on the entire purchase at $1 million and above it. So what the federal government has done now, and seeing as house prices across Canada, and especially in some of the peak markets, how much they've gone above that threshold when you look at all product types combined, condos, townhomes, detached homes, if you look at averages in some of the peak areas, it's well above $1 million. And so what they've announced now, the federal government, is that threshold now bumps up to 1.5 million, meaning that you can go up to 1.5 million and not need to put 20% down. So this is going to reduce down payments. To give you an idea, at 1.5 million, you're looking at, under the old process, you're looking at 20% down. So that would be $300,000. So $300,000 that you'd put down at 1.5. Whereas now, based on the tiered structure that we've had up to $1 million, a buyer's not having to put near that down, $125,000 down now, up to that 1.5. How it works is you put 5% down up to 500,000, and then you put 10% down now up until the 1.499999 mark. So it's a significant savings off of the down payment. And so you have buyers out there that, again, they're now going to be able to stretch themselves a little bit more, stretch the money that they have, and purchase more expensive product. Now, if we really look at it, there's not many buyers out there that can put $125,000 down or the minimum down and qualify for a mortgage on a $1.5 million property. That buying power just doesn't exist out there. It's not very common. The people that can get there are generally going to have to put a lot more money down. They're getting money passed down through family. So I think at the top end, like at that 1.5 million mark, I don't see so much traction with this, but definitely going like just over the $1 million mark, say from $1 million to 1.25, you're going to find that people are going to be able again to put less money down. They will find a way to qualify. Obviously, here in Canada, we deal with the stress test, which is very difficult on buyers. But as rates come down, obviously that stress test comes down as well, so it becomes a little bit easier to qualify. But again, we have a scenario that's basically encouraging people to take on more leverage, take on more debt, come in with less equity, take on more debt, and ultimately this is also going to fuel demand and prop up value, prop up real estate value. So in essence, both of these policies that have come out, these changes and new policies, are just going to fuel a market and just kind of pushing that floor of real estate higher up in price. And when you look at it from a holistic perspective, I touched earlier on the development community. Developers, their cost is the bottom line price, right? So what it costs them to build, that's the absolute bare minimum that real estate can be here in Canada. And developers, obviously they have to make their margin, etc. So there's that baseline cost of it. And so with these policies, it's almost like the federal government is helping prop that up. And I understand, because at the same time, it's we need to incentivize the developers. We have a scenario where federally, the plan was 3.9 million homes by 2031 to build by the federal government. Not going to happen on our best days, and definitely not going to happen when developers are struggling to put units out there. Just here in Vancouver, just recently, the CEO of West Group, as well as some other larger developers, came together and they sent a 3-page letter out to the federal housing minister, Sean Fraser, to David Eby, to Ravi Kahlon, to all the cities, basically talking about how they were increasing their development cost charges. So all of the metro, I shouldn't say all, plenty of the metro Vancouver cities were increasing their development cost charges over the next 2 to 3 years. And it got so much of a pushing point out there that funding from the federal government that was going to go to the cities, the city of Vancouver, got halted when Sean Fraser, the housing minister, saw that, wow, we're trying to do all of these things to incite development, and now this has a very big possibility. This is a big risk with these fees going up in Vancouver, in Burnaby, other Metro Vancouver cities. This is going to go against our plan of building these homes. So they withheld funding from the cities, and now these developers have come together and they're saying, look, with all of the increase in costs, now is not the time to be increasing these fees. I believe he cited, the CEO of West Group, 30,000 plus units that have been approved in Surrey alone that are in jeopardy, that may not actually push forward. They were approved prior to these DCC announcements and these changes. So you can understand the federal government looking from a bird's eye view, we'll say, and looking at the scope and what's happening across the country and seeing the challenges with development. There's articles about foreclosures in Vancouver happening, developer style foreclosures, not individual houses, developer style land foreclosures. Almost every 2 weeks, there's something out there, a project being canceled, project never getting off the ground. So in essence, when we circle this all back, 30-year amortization for every buyer on a new build, that's basically boosting that buying power, and boosting the buying power is boosting the floor price. It's pushing the price up. It's saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Developer, that margin you've been seeking, here it is. We're going to make it easier for people to take on more debt, essentially, so we can get you that margin that just doesn't exist in today's market. So I think overall with these two changes, you know, extremely significant. These are, I think the mortgage industry is saying these are two of the biggest changes we've seen, you know, probably in a decade or more than a decade. And so these are very significant things. I think if anyone believes that these are affordability measures, this is to make it so you can afford more, you know, I guess in a roundabout way, yes, but the way that you're going to be able to afford more in your life is you're basically going to take on more debt over a longer period of time. And, you know, the reality is housing affordability in Canada is such a hot button topic, especially here in Vancouver. You know, we're not going to achieve this. We're not going to be able to build enough homes to all of a sudden achieve housing affordability. You know, the way that we achieve you know, affordability in this province, in this country, is stimulating business investment and through wage growth and more additional housing supply that helps, and some immigration reform, which we see happening as well. There's no one lever you can pull, but what I can say is that, you know, this here, 100%, and I work with a lot of buyers, many buyers are going to look at this and say, I can now afford more home. I can now maybe skip the condo, I can go to the townhome. And so we're going to see this shift. We're going to see prices push up based on these two measures. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, hit the like button, because what that does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can also learn from it. And if you enjoy weekly real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss next week's video. And lastly, again, if you're in the Vancouver area or the Fraser Valley, you want to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, book me for a free call or just send me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email. All my contact info is in the description box. But I want to thank you for watching this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.